Good afternoon. Okay, so we are back. I'm back. I'm back. And I am ready to start this series, Covenants and Contracts. And just so you know how this is going to work, I'm going to, in everything that I teach, I'll always have a series. Like this series is Covenants and Contracts, okay? And I will always have 3 sessions, God's law, federal law, state law, obviously. And in every session, there will be 4 lessons. There'll be the theoretical, if you want to call it the theory sessions, which is lessons, which are lessons 1 and 3, learning new terms and definitions and synonyms and whatever. You'll learn that in lessons 1 and 3. And then lessons 2 and 4 is an application of those facts, of whatever source that we're using. For example, in the first, in this, every session will always start off with God's law. So the source would be the Bible. So it's taking those facts from the Bible with the terms that we've learned and applying those facts so it can be, understood how this practical, being how it works, right? Being practical, taking your terms, but taking facts and taking life and using those and marrying those two together. Okay, so that's how it's going to work. So 1 session, 3 sessions, and 4 lessons, okay? And so now, without further ado, Covenants and Contracts will begin. In this session, I really just wanted to do one thing, which is, what is a covenant? Define what is a covenant. When I think about definitions, I never really think about defining anything by the block definition. I always call it like the rule block, something I learned in law school. Rule block. I don't think on those terms. I think in 1 or 2, 3 words, synonyms. Thank God for thesauruses. And so, but when I defined a covenant, I wanted to, have that little bit of a rule block for covenant. And so what I have here, let me back up a little bit. I don't want to do it at the end. I want to do it in the beginning. Every definition that I have, every synonym that I'm using has all come from the internet. Dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster.com, Google Dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary, when we go through legal terminology, that's where all of my definitions have come from. Okay. So you can look at things up on your own if you want to. It's perfectly fine. I just want to let you know. But with this portion of the series, the legal foundation, we're starting off with covenant, which is biblical. But we use covenant. We use it in our contracts, our mortgage, contracts, our deeds. We use it, when we talk about marriage, we use covenant, loosely in a lot of the things that we say and do. But what is a covenant? All right. So a covenant, the definition I have is a covenant is an agreement between God and his people. It's an oath, a binding agreement, a solemn agreement between the members of a church to act together in harmony with the precepts of the gospel, or of the gospel, not of a gospel, of the gospel, a promise, okay? So again, I'll read it one more time. A covenant is an agreement between God and his people. It's also an oath, a binding agreement, a solemn agreement between the members of a church to act together in harmony with the precepts of the gospel, a promise. So in that rule block, a little tiny rule block, I decided to break down some of the words just to really bring home, well, what is a covenant, further break it down. So one thing that I decided to find a definition for was binding. When the definition calls for a binding agreement, what does it mean to bind? What when you bind someone, when you bind yourself, what does that mean? Well, to bind is to obligate legally or morally. It's a commitment. It is to compel. So a covenant is a legal or moral obligation. A covenant is a commitment. A covenant is to compel. I'm pretty sure you can think about some of those things in your life that you have committed to, that you have, if you didn't know, you kind of bound, not kind of, you did, you bound yourself legally and morally. So you've made a covenant. Now, did you keep those? I don't know. I'm not judging because I am not like 110% or even 100%. Let me even say 85% on my covenants that I make on a daily basis. Okay. Solemn. What does it mean for something to be a solemn agreement between the members of a church or people, right? To act in harmony. Solemn is a serious or earnest assurance. So a covenant is a serious assurance. An earnest assurance. A covenant is characterized by serious or dignified formality. Okay, so if you think about that, wow. So when you make a covenant, you're making a serious assurance. You're making that promise. You're making that serious assurance. I keep saying assurance, to yourself, to do something, and to someone else, right? So you're making that, and it's a two-way street. Sometimes promises are actually not just a two-way street, it's individual. But I won't go there for right now. What is it? What is a promise? Well, a promise is a statement that one will or will not do something. A promise creates a basis for expectation. So a covenant creates a basis of expectation. When you make a promise to someone, when someone makes a promise to you, you are expecting that person to do what they said they're going to do or not do, as well as that person is expecting you to do what you say that you're going to do or not do. So a covenant is all of that. It's to legally or morally obligate yourself, or someone is obligating themselves to do something. It is an assurance, right? It's a serious assurance that you're going to do what you said you're going to do or not do. It's a commitment, is to compel. A covenant is what is it? What is a promise? What did I say? Oh, it's a statement, right, that one will or will not do something. I said that several times. And it's an agreement. A covenant is an agreement. Well, what's an agreement? An agreement is harmony of opinion or purpose. Harmony of opinion or purpose, a mutual understanding or arrangement. So a covenant is an agreement. It's harmony of opinion or purpose, right? It's mutual understanding or arrangement. When you make a covenant, it is serious. That's the point that I'm trying to get across. It's a serious thing. It's not just something to just do. So when you get married, right, when you get married, you're making a covenant, you're making a serious assurance, you're making an agreement, a mutual understanding. I know that every marriage doesn't actually end, does not follow through with that serious assurance till death do you part, right? Because other circumstances come in and may separate that marriage. But when that covenant, right? But understanding, I'm using that as an example, understanding that covenant, it's legally or morally binding you or that other person because there was an agreement. So that's that. That was pretty heavy. That's pretty heavy deal. But okay. So that is where I'm going to stop today. I just want to stop at the rule of covenant. I would love for you to look over this information. I would love for you to be able to, go and search and write your own notes about covenant and start to try to identify some of those, which is, I guess, a little bit of homework. Identify those covenants in your life. Identify the covenants that you may make today, that you might make tomorrow, that someone has made to you. Something as little and as tiny as, I'm going to give you a phone call, which I do a lot. And then I end up literally not doing it. I have very good intentions, but I don't really always follow through on those little small covenants that I make. But I have to go back and remember them and try to make them right and try to fulfill those because I've binded myself legally and or morally. Not legally, morally, obviously. But you see what I'm saying? So I would love for you to write down some of those covenants that you can identify. Even another one, like your children saying, "Can you play with me? Can we go to the store? Or can you watch a movie with me?" And then you say yes. And then it's like, "Oh, Mommy, you broke your promise." Well, yeah, you did break your promise. Daddy's, yeah, you broke your promise. So write those down. Write them down, please. So that you can start to mull over and kind of really see, because this is all going to play out. And I really want you to be able to, I want you to live it. I want you to eat it. I want you to breathe it. I want you to do everything with this, because if you don't do the work, it's not going to matter. Okay. And nothing that I'm going to teach you is useless. Not at all. God bless this word. I hope that he's blesses your ears and your hearts and your minds and your souls to be able to receive this information and be able to take it in so it can make some changes in your everyday life. And you'll be able to start teaching people what you learn. And we can maybe start walking together instead of apart as people. So ciao for now, from my space to yours. Much love and peace, joy and happiness. And please remember to keep God first in everything. It's your foundation. Love you. Bye.